Welcome back to Elevate Inspiration for Sunday School. This is our last lesson for this quarter, the spring quarter of 2020. The subject is Return to Love and Justice. This is actually lesson 14. So let's jump right into our lesson. We're in our summer season, and one of the things in summer that I know I enjoy and I see my family enjoy is watermelons. Have you ever looked at a watermelon on the outside and it's so appealing that it looked like a gourmet ice cream? And then as you take that knife and you stroke that watermelon open, and you look at it, and everyone around the table is wince with disgust. Why? You see, that watermelon is rotten from the inside out. Yet we do not see that the watermelon is rotten from the outside. We only see that that watermelon is rotten once we cut it open. So this perfect watermelon that looked perfect on the outside, on the inside, it is reeked with decay. And that fruit, that beautiful fruit now is rotten at the core. And I know you have had a similar experience when something looked good on the outside, but was bad on the inside. And this is where our lesson is leading towards today. In our lesson today focuses on Hosea. And Hosea is a minor prophet. He's prophesying to the northern kingdom of Israel. And this is around the mid-century BC. And on the outside, Israel seemed prosperous. But on the inside, Hosea revealed the core of Israel. The leadership is Jeroboam the second. The kingdom is prosperous. They're doing excellent. But when you look real closely at the kingdom, the northern kingdom, Ephraim, Israel, it too was rotten at the core. And that's what we're going to look at. We're going to see how God has said, enough is enough on your behavior, Israel, and it's time for punishment. The first outline is Father's faithfulness. And if you look at Hosea, the 11th chapter, verses 1, 2, and then 7 through 10, and here's the outline for those verses. Before we go any further, I want to talk about Hosea for just a few seconds. As I mentioned earlier, he's a minor prophet. He's actually, when you think of Hosea, you think of mainly his wife, Gomar. You remember she was a prostitute. And God actually used the imagery of Hosea and Gomar. He used that relationship to illustrate the fact that Israel, the people with whom he had entered into a sacred covenant, had also broken faith by committing adultery, spiritual adultery with false gods. And this action actually broke God's heart. And you see, if you read the entire book of Hosea, you'll see how Hosea married Gomar. She turns back to prostitution. He actually go and redeem her from that prostitution and bring her back home. And this is what God is saying to the children of Israel. As we look at the first outline, which is Hosea 11, verses 1 to 10, through 10, I actually put this in the message for you. And I encourage you, as you read these scriptures, read them in different versions because it really become plain exactly realizing what God is saying to his chosen people. I highlighted two things here. In the first column here, my son, call him out of Egypt. So basically what God is saying is taking them all the way back to Egypt when they was in bondage for 400 years. And when he led them out of Egypt, if you notice here, he says, and then you worship the popular sex gods. You actually left me. You ran off. You played religion with toy gods. Still, I stuck with him. I led Ephraim. I rescued him from human bondage. God is amazing. He's really patient when it comes down to dealing with mankind. In the second column, if you notice, he emphasized, my people are hell bent on leaving me, they prayed to God Balaam for help. And this is reference to showing, yet I did all this for you, but you never came and you never worshiped me, truly worshiped me. You kept going back, uh, uh, worshiping false gods. You kept going back, doing the thing. And then here's the word Ephraim again. And how will I give up on you, Ephraim? I'm not going to leave you. And if you notice here, the verses, he used two cities here. You to be ruined like Edmon, devastated like luckless Zeboam. These are two sister cities of Solomon and Gomorrah. And you remember how God destroyed those two cities. And he's telling Ephraim, he's telling the northern kingdom, I'm not going to destroy you like them. And here's the reason why. I'm not going to destroy Ephraim. Why? Because I am God and not a human. You know, many times we actually, and I pull from this in applications, I hear people say, you know, God don't like ugly. You know, God is going to get you. Get him, God. God does not treat our fellow humans like we treat our fellow humans. God is not a human. God doesn't even think like we think. It says his thoughts is so far above ours as the heaven is above the earth. God deals with us. Yes, he hates sin, but he loves the sinner. So the question I want you to think about is, how can you use this text that we just went over to encourage those who feel that their bad decisions cannot be forgiven? And I know we run into people like that they have made a mess of their lives and they're saying, God is not going to forgive me. So the next outline is Lord's resolution, and this is Hosea the 12th chapter, verses 1 and 2, 6 through 14, and I actually have listed the subheadings for each of those verses there. So I want you to just hit pause and read those verses. So again, I brought these verses to you in the message, and then the first one is Ephraim, obsessed with God fantasies, chase ghosts and phantoms. He tells lies nonstop, soul destroying lives, both Ephraim and Judah. Make deals with Assyria and trying to get the inside track with Egypt. God is bringing charges against Israel. Jacob's children are hauled into court to be punished. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing a trial. We're seeing that the children of Israel, Ephraim, and we also see in the southern kingdom, which is Judah, how you have left me. You actually have made deals with outside resources. You've looked for your protection to Assyria. You look to your protection for Egypt. And now, since you're not holding me accountable, you're not coming to me. This is what God is saying. I'm bringing charges against you. And I'm going to bring you to court. And we're going to see what your punishment is going to be based on your actions against me. In the 12th chapter, and I highlighted these verses here, it says, look at it from a business standpoint. They love to rip off people. Ephraim boasts, look, I'm rich. I made it big. And look how well I've covered my tracks. Not a hint of fraud, not a sign of sin. How often we think, because I'm prosperous, that it is God that has caused me to be rich. So I must be doing something right. This is the same attitude that the children of Israel, Ephraim had, the northern kingdom had towards God, because they are prospering. Under Jeroboam the third, they are very prosperous, and their kingdom has really flourished, and they think their flourishing of their wealth is because of their blessing from God. And over in the second column, it says, are you going to repeat the life of your ancestor Jacob? Are you going to do the same thing that your forefathers did? And this is what God is saying to them. So here's a question I want you to think about. What do the text frequent references to Egypt suggest to you about what to be on guard against in human nature, generally speaking? So when you look at his reference to Egypt, how they are in bondage in Egypt and he has freed them from bondage, how can we relate that today? What is the thing that we should guard against even today while we're living here in America? So the proper response, and after we study this lesson, here are some following statements I want you to consider. First, our country's best hope for security lies in a strong military and good foreign policy. How often do we hear that, especially during political campaigns? Again, look at Hosea 12 and 1 and see, is that what we think of today? That we have to have a strong military and good foreign policy? What about this statement? Sure, there are areas of creative interpretation of the contract we give customers. If they don't read the fine print, that's their problem. Look again at Hosea 12 and 7. How many times we sign things and there's fine print that we can't even read ourselves? And yet, when that product failed to produce what we want to, they said, well, you signed for it. And then lastly, as we go to church, and how often we hear this statement. I go to church, I take communion, I put money in the plate, I show up for the fellowship dinners. With all those boxes checked off, I'm good with God. And how often do we say that? If you again look at Hosea 11:2 and 12 and 1 and see that that fits you. And our thought for today is let love and justice characterize your life. Thank you for listening to me. I see you in Sunday school.